So happy to be here talking with Dave Sutter, the founder and CEO of OpenTrade, one of our newest investments, and very excitingly in the crypto space.
Yes.
We're talking CEO craft, and we're talking CEO craft for a company which is incredibly volatile, in an industry which is incredibly volatile.
Absolutely.
How do you marry the uncertainty in the industry with the need to create some consistency and calm in your own equilibrium internally, as well as obviously in the, I guess, the messages and the way that you're leading the team? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think that's something that's unique to crypto, is in that, I mean, people say in crypto that one day in crypto is like a year and everything else.
Yeah, it does.
So that's really important as a CEO or as anyone to be able to read that signal and respond quickly to those changes, which can be consequential from a regulatory perspective, from a macro perspective, but at the same time, to not be drawn down the trap of chasing shiny objects and getting too caught up in the hype and sort of media storm that, you know, inevitably follows both very good things and very bad things. And so as a team, I think Jeff and I, my co-founder, both have been in crypto for over a decade. And so we've seen the peaks, we've seen the valleys, and that helps us not get too high and not get too low, which is just really important for the consistency of our performance.
Yeah. One of the mantras that I've been playing with for the last 12 months is that totally committed, but fully unattached.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
I wouldn't say totally unattached, in that there are certain principles that were the impetus for us founding the company, like these core beliefs in the value of permissionless internet native digital dollars and sort of the impact that that can have on society and the tools that we're building for people interacting with that. Those we don't anticipate and should never compromise or change on. But pretty much everything else, we have to have an open mind to. And also, especially an open mind with respect to not following the herd all the time, because ultimately things that are not intuitive and go against the grain, ultimately a lot of times happen to be the best ideas. If you're just following what everyone else is doing, then yeah, it's going to be hard to stand out. So definitely we try to respond at pace to these changes and think outside the box, but stay true to those core principles of why we founded the company.
Dave, one of the things that you are so good at, off the clock good at, is simplifying complex ideas. Were you born with that? Like, how have you honed that in your role as the CEO?
I think, yeah, that's a really good question. I think I've always naturally been drawn to leadership positions and public speaking and educating and just by nature of the things I've done in my life, I love taking something what seems to be on the surface very complex, but actually at its core is very simple, and taking people along that journey. But I don't think that can only be an innate sort of born with skill. I think that comes a lot with practice.
Okay.
And so just being drawn to these positions, I'm constantly being put in situations where I need to educate, I need to speak in front of people, I need to, whether it's investors or customers or partners, be able to distill things down, and just practice over a decade has made me better at that. So it's both nature and nurture is what I'd say.
So if someone's watching this and they're trying to learn that skill, and you're, just as I say, like one of the masters at it, what would you say to them? Like, what's unlocked mastery for you?
Yeah, I think one thing is just, I would like if you're a sports fan and you're participating in sports, people like to watch highlights of their favorite athletes and see how they perform. I think in terms of oration and education and public speaking, watch the people that you admire and how they explain themselves, and so whether it's Barack Obama or Steve Jobs or any of these sort of just legendary public speakers, watch what they do, how they do it, and try to emulate some of that with your own character and within your own personality. And then you just need to practice it. So you're like, I've had, engagements that have not gone well, and just, like, you need to really thrust yourself into the fire, whether that's meetups or panels or anything you can get yourself into that gives you just practice with speaking and explaining what you do, the better you're going to be at it. And practice in a mirror. I will say, I'm not ashamed to say that, when we're raising money or when I'm going to do sort of a keynote or I'm, asked to deliver a 30-second pitch, I write it down.
Yep.
And I practice it.
So you write it down and then you say it out loud to yourself in the mirror.
I say it out loud to myself in the mirror, and then I say it out loud to other people, because it's really important that you get that objective sort of external feedback, because you will be doing things,
yes,
whether it's brain gas where you're saying or your motions or not.
Yeah.
It's important to have someone else also sort of vet that.
Another thing that hit me between the eyes when we first started talking was your scaling mindset. In fact, you famously said to me, you're hoping that in X amount of time, like 5, 6, 7 years, you actually, can make yourself redundant, and that you've got these capable leaders that will be running your company day to day. How do you plan to achieve that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think just to underline what I mean by that is my job as a CEO is to build an organization that's resilient and empowered and knowledgeable and skilled enough to operate if I weren't there.
Yeah. So
and that takes time. And that's something that it may never be possible, right? I'm not sure if it is or not, but that's certainly a goal to strive for, because that's going to force you to put the effort into team building, into education, into enablement, into career development, into hiring, which are, such important things. And so how I'm actually doing that from a day-to-day perspective will ultimately change as the stage of the company changes. Right now, where we're at in a seed stage, it's all about spending first and foremost hiring, and secondly, with those hires, spending consistent, quality, extended periods of time with them, so that I can get them inside of my brain and they can get inside of my brain, and I can get inside of their brain, and that we can start to understand at a low level of detail what it is day to day that we need to be doing as a team, and what it is I'm doing day to day that I would like them to take over, and how I'm doing it. And so that's like at a seed stage, it's hiring and just spending, not just hiring them and throwing them a pitch deck or a problem and saying, go solve it. But, for the first 3-6 months, sitting right next to them and doing it with them.
Yeah, and it's the sort of the role modeling, it's the osmosis as well. Understanding, it sounds like to me, understanding the decision making that you're both kind of making, so that then you can sub for each other, right? Is that what
absolutely.
You're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's so many things in a startup. There's not going to be almost everything. There's not going to be like a 6-minute training video you're going to be able to watch that's going to encapsulate, how to run product strategy or how to, these are things that you need to do, whether it's virtually or in person over extended periods of time, person to person.
How does, just changing the subject a little bit, but I'm curious, how does mentorship and coaching change in the Valley versus here? Because you've got access to both networks.
I think that's a really good question. I think European and UK startups generally have had to become and are much grittier, much more resourceful, and much leaner in the strategies and resources that they use to do that, because they traditionally have had not had access to endless walls of capital.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about it with Tim earlier today. Wow, a lot of times you raise $50 or $100 million.
Yes. Yeah.
People just start writing checks to solve problems. Well, typically the level of funding and level of funding raised by European or UK startups has been lower than the Bay Area. And that's actually forced them to figure out ways how to do things with less capital. And I think that is sort of the biggest difference I see in mentality from, and it's not good or bad.
They
right?
keep you humble.
It absolutely keeps you humble. And I mean, we've been blessed to have support from great investors from both the UK and from the Bay Area. So we have the best of both worlds. And that's an amazing thing because they both bring different perspectives that I think are important to capture and merge into one mentality, because we definitely don't operate under we don't want to operate under the assumption that there is infinite capital out there and that we'll always be able to do that. I think our mindset is very much how can we raise as little as possible and do as much as possible? And if there is unlimited capital, then all the better.
Exactly. It's a nice problem to have. You're much better than the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. I would rather optimize for having less, and then if it's there, great. Then just assume, and I've been a part of companies in the past that have run under that assumption, and it typically ends poorly if you're not also delivering.
What's been most surprising or unexpected about the idea of becoming a CEO, founder CEO, and then actually being one day to day?
I think I think the thing that I've noticed is when you are a founder, whether that's CEO or CTO or whatever, there is such an industry around startups now, and there's so many tools available, wonderful tools like the platform that the Albion team runs that are really just like force multipliers that help in every aspect of your job. And so I think that's just, it's been pleasantly surprising how much support is available. And it's not available to everyone, right? Not everyone's as lucky to be, have such great investors like we do. But generally, it is amazing how much is out there for us, whether it's our mental health, physical health, our performance in our role, our jobs, hiring, product, tech. There's just so much available out there. On the flip side of that, everyone wants your time.
Yeah.
So the minute you are a CEO or founder and your title on LinkedIn, there is also an entire industry that's there to sell to you.
Yeah.
And they want your time, and they want your attention, and they want to sell to you.
I think that's so well said. I was talking to an investor yesterday who mentioned one of their founders is overrun with advisors.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah, you're so right. And actually, one of the FoundtoLead principles here is that we want to try and make this as curated as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you filtering?
Actually, I filter pretty simply right now, and it's based on who, and we build our cap table intentionally, but who is the most impactful, relevant person or firm that can support us that already exists within our cap table. So it's like exhaust the resources that we have right now.
Like that.
And only then when we tap those out, should we go start seeking external advice or external advisors, because so much of it is what you make of it. And that if you really put the time and effort into sort of bottoming out all of those resources, why should we go randomly searching for
I like that, because we understand your business. Like we're inside the tent. We can see it close to close range. Yeah. And actually then if we then say, okay, so the accuracy of our understanding of what the priorities are. Exactly. And the interventions that are going to genuinely move the needle. Actually you have this sort of ready-made filter.
The advice is just going to be so much better because you sit on our board, our business, know us as people, what we do, why we do it, how we do it, who we sell to. And so your advice is just going to be so much more targeted. Otherwise, I have to go get someone up to that same level of speed. And that's a big investment.
This has been awesome. I'm so happy with the work that we're doing together. And long may it continue.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jane.